think we all got sick as kids or as teenagers. It happens to all of us. It happened to me a lot in particular, though. Maybe it was just the living conditions I was in, or the fact that I lived in a particularly big city where people get sick all the time. I would get sick around once every month or so. I know that doesn't sound too bad, but for me, it was a living nightmare. I would have to stay in bed by the whole day, chomping on bland crackers and drinking water until I got better. My parents were clean freaks, so they wouldn't allow me to leave my room until I was better, for fear that I would, quote, cover everything in the house with my germs, unquote. Their words, not mine. While this would happen often, it would be over relatively quickly and nothing crazy would actually happen. I'd just stay in bed for the whole day and it would pass over within a day or so. Though there was that one time I stayed in bed for a whole week because of the flu, and that's a story for another day. But one incident in particular was certainly more memorable than the others, and it's a moment I'll never forget. I was homesick one day, big surprise, and I felt particularly bad that day. I had a massive fever, and since I wasn't moving that much, my entire body hurt like hell. I was 15 at the time and my parents were at the grocery store, leaving me home alone to watch the house. I was in my room laying in bed with tissue stuffed in my nose and a bottle of water next to me. I was pretty bored just lying there doing nothing, so I decided to go downstairs and watch some TV, considering my parents weren't home and wouldn't have known what I was doing. So I made my way downstairs ever so slowly and slumped down on the couch. I grabbed the remote off of the coffee table and turned the TV on. It took a bit for the TV to activate, but after a minute or so it eventually started working. The channel that was currently on was Nickelodeon. I had always loved Nickelodeon as a child and still do now. The show that was currently airing was Spongebob. I had always loved watching SpongeBob as a kid and still do now, so I was excited to watch an episode since I hadn't in such a long time. Now here's where things get strange. I had turned the TV on just as the episode began, so as you would expect, it started out with the normal intro. Nothing strange so far. Once the intro ended, it showed the title card. The title of the episode was The Summoning, in yellow text on a red background. I thought that was pretty strange considering how I'd never heard of this episode before, but I figured it was just a brand new episode maker in its first premiere. The bubble transition appeared and showed the outside view of the Krusty Krab. From what I could see, it appeared to be a very busy day there. The animation appeared to be done in the style used from season 9 and onward, confirming that it was, in fact, a newer episode. It cut to the inside of the restaurant, and there was a long line of customers sitting by the cash register was, of course, Squidward. The person in the front of the line said, "I'll have one Krabby Patty and fries, please." Squidward sighed and called out to SpongeBob. "SpongeBob, I need one Krabby Patty and fries." Squidward looked at SpongeBob through the window behind him and saw that SpongeBob was dancing in the kitchen to an upbeat pop song. He was jumping around, dancing around and kicking his legs in the air with the most obvious smile on his face. "SpongeBob!" Squidward called out for him again. SpongeBob turned around with one of his legs still in the air. However, as he was doing so, one of his shoes flew off of his foot and hit Squidward right in the head. SpongeBob laughed at this, and Squidward looked pissed. Squidward attempted to tackle SpongeBob by jumping through the window and ended up landing face first on the stove. He let out a high-pitched scream and fell on the floor with burn marks on his face. "Oh, Squidward, are you okay?" SpongeBob asked. Squidward got up and looked even more pissed. "No, you blubbering buffoon, I'm gonna—" Squidward was cut off by the sound of the doors opening. It was Patrick, wearing a blindfold and wielding a jellyfish net. "Hey SpongeBob, you want to go jellyfishing?" Patrick called out, swinging his net around. Squidward walked out the kitchen door and walked up to Patrick. "What do you want, Patrick?" Squidward said, still angry. "Wait, who's there?" Patrick said, still waving his net around. "It's me, you stupid— Ow!" Patrick annoyingly hit Squidward in the face with his net. Squidward held his face and let out a few pain-filled grunts. He stumbled over and knocked over a few tables and chairs, some of them having customers sitting in them. "Hey, watch where you're going!" the patron called out. Squidward continued to stumble around till he eventually bumped into a pole and fell over. A few of the patrons actually got up and left, supposedly because Squidward's actions were disturbing the peace. Mr. Krabs burst through his office door and yelled, "What in the name of King Neptune is going on here?" Squidward got up on the ground, covered in bruises and still having the burn marks on his face. "Arg! SpongeBob and Patrick are being annoying and ruining my day," Squidward said in response. "Well, maybe you should stop your complaining and get back to work, Mr. Squidward," Mr. Krabs called out. He went back into his office and slammed the door. Squidward's face turned red with rage. "Arrgh! I hate the stupid town and all the residents within it!" Squidward yelled with fury. "I'm going home!" Squidward stomped out the door and made his way back to his house. As he was walking back to his house, a suspicious black car pulled up in front of him, stopping Squidward in his tracks. 3 suspicious robed figures with black fedoras and sunglasses got out of the car and approached Squidward. "Excuse me, sir. Can we have a moment of your time?" one of the robed figures asked in a soft voice. What?" Squidward responded in confusion. The robed figure motioned his hands towards the car, insinuating that he wanted Squidward to get inside. "Come," the robed figure said. Squidward and the robed figures got in the car, with Squidward in the back seat squished between 2 other robed figures that sat next to him. One of the robed figures got into the driver's seat of the car, put on a seatbelt, and drove off. Squidward had an uncomfortable and concerned look on his face. What's going on? What's happening?" Squidward asked. "Alright, listen here, tentacle head," the robed figure in the driving seat said. "We know who you are. We always have. We're quite familiar with you, in fact, and we're here to help you." "Help me? But how?" Squidward asked. "Are you familiar with a certain sea sponge working at a fast food joint?" the robed figure asked. "You mean Spongebob?" "Yes," Squidward replied. "And you hate him, right? Like, thoroughly despise?" the robed figure asked. Yeah?" Squidward said. "Well, we might be able to do something about that, free of cost," said the robed figure. "We are familiar with someone of higher power, basically a god, and he might be able to do a little something for your old spongy friend." "I wouldn't exactly call him my friend, but I am intrigued," Squidward responded. "Alright, I'll take you to our place and we'll discuss things there," the robed figure said. "Oh, and by the way, you can call me ZZ." Alright, said Squidward. I gotta admit, this episode seemed normal, if not a bit weird. I didn't think it can get any weirder, but or was I wrong? The bubble transition appeared, and it showed Squidward, ZZ, and the rest of the robed figures arriving at their destination. A large, ancient cobblestone pyramid perched on a sandy hill with stairs leading up in the entrance. Moss and other forms of plant life engulfed the pyramid. "This is the place," said ZZ. Everyone stepped out of the car and made their way towards the entrance. What is this place?" Squidward asked. "You'll see soon enough. Come on," ZZ said. ZZ opened a pair of double doors, and it cut to show the inside of the pyramid. It was a large square-shaped room with a large pentagram in the middle, and what looked to be a deactivated portal against the back wall. A large chandelier hung from the ceiling, lighting up the area. There were a few tables pressed against the side walls with a few books and other items on them. What in the what?" Squidward stuttered. "I see you must be confused," said ZZ. "Allow me to explain. This is where we'll be summoning the god I mentioned earlier. If all things go according to plan, he should snatch that sponge like an apple off the tree and take him away forever." "That sounds like a bit of a risk, don't you think?" Squidward asked. "Nah," ZZ replied. "Go get your yellow friend and bring him back here so we can begin the ceremony. We'll be waiting." "Okay, I'll be right back," said Squidward. Squidward ran out the door and ran over to the Krusty Krab to fetch Spongebob. The bubble transition appeared and showed the outside view of the Krusty Krab, with Squidward running towards the entrance. He cut to an inside view of the Krusty Krab. Squidward burst through the doors before stopping to take a breath. Sweat beaded down his face. "Spongebob! Spongebob!" Squidward said in between breaths. Spongebob then burst through the kitchen door. "Squidward!" Spongebob yelled in excitement. "You're back! Where have you been?" "Never mind that," said Squidward. "Look, I have something I want to show you. Come with me." Squidward grabbed SpongeBob's hand. "Okay," SpongeBob said. Squidward and SpongeBob then proceeded to walk out the door and make their way to the temple. "So, where are you taking me?" SpongeBob asked. "Oh, you'll see." Squidward replied. He had a sinister look on his face. He then let out a maniacal laugh. The bubble transition appeared and showed the outside view of the pyramid, with Squidward and SpongeBob walking towards the entrance. It cut to the inside of the pyramid, with SpongeBob and Squidward walking through the door. ZZ, boys, I brought him here, Squidward announced. SpongeBob's eyes lit up in awe as he stared at the dimly lit interior. The chandelier had been turned off, and instead, a horde of candles circling the pentagram lit up in the room. Wow, SpongeBob said in awe. Pretty lights. SpongeBob was completely oblivious to what was about to happen. Ah yes, little sponge dude, ZZ said. We've been expecting you. Stand right here for me. He pointed towards the center of the pentagram. Okay, SpongeBob said as he gracefully walked over to the center of the pentagram. Yo, Squidface, you ready? ZZ asked. It's Squidward, and yes I am, Squidward replied. Alright, stand next to me, said ZZ. Squidward made his way next to ZZ. ZZ whipped out a book from thin air and said, Okay, Squidward, repeat after me. Yes, sir, Squidward replied. Alright, ZZ said as he opened up the book and turned to the pages for a few seconds. Oh, my great god of destruction, sweet mother of all things evil, accept my offer, my sacrifice, my gift to you, my sweet prince. Squidward repeated the phrase as well as the other robed figures that were there as well. They repeated the phrase once more, and during that, the ground shook fiercely and the portal lit up and began glowing as it activated. Suddenly, a large, thin, human-like creature with black skin, red eyes, and spikes all over climbed out of the portal. It completely towered over Squidward, SpongeBob, and the others. The creature let out a loud, ground-shaking roar, exposing his long, sharp teeth and his snake-like tongue. SpongeBob and Squidward let out a loud scream and curled up on the ball on the floor out of fear. Food, I need food, the creature boomed. Food? Squidward said. What is he talking about? Nothing, ZZ replied. My lord, I have a special something for you. He picked up SpongeBob off the ground and held it up for the creature to see. The creature said, stroking its chin. I'll accept it. The creature held out its hand and ZZ placed SpongeBob in the palm of its hand. What's happening? Said SpongeBob shakingly. Oh, nothing, ZZ replied. Thank you, said the monstrous creature as he slowly made his way through the portal, letting out an evil, echoing laugh the whole way. Once it made its way through the portal, the ground stopped shaking and the portal deactivated. Squidward was staring in awe at what had just happened. What just happened? Said Squidward in awe and confusion. The mission was successful, ZZ replied, and now your spongy friend is gone forever and he's never coming back. I hope you're happy. Wait, you're serious? Squidward stuttered. Indeed, ZZ replied. You can live the rest of your life in peace and prosperity. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day alone with no bothering, no sponge to bug you 24/7. Nothing. Nothing but peace and quiet. Forever. Squidward just stood there in complete shock at the fact that he would never have to see SpongeBob ever again. Oh my god! He's actually gone? I can't... I can't believe this is happening! I'm free! Squidward ran out of the door, steadily yelling, I'm free! The bubble transition appeared and showed the outside of Squidward's home, with Squidward still running around the front door. It then cut to the inside of Squidward's house as he burst through his door. He gleefully jumped into the couch and jumped up and down on it. SpongeBob is finally gone! He shouted. He finally calmed himself down and slumped onto the couch. Now I can finally watch some TV alone without SpongeBob bothering me. He grabbed the TV remote off the couch and turned on the TV. He had a satisfied look on his face and stayed on the shot for 7 seconds. Squidward let out a sigh of pleasure and relief. It then cut to Squidward at the Krusty Krab in front of the cash register with that same satisfied expression on his face. He looked over at the window behind him where he would expect Spongebob to be. But there was, of course, no Spongebob. Squidward let out another pleasured sigh. It then cut to a shot of Squidward walking through the park, but this time his face seemed more sad. He still had that satisfied look on his face, but it still had that hint of sadness and monotone to it. He let out another pleasured sigh, but it sounded more dissatisfied than before. It then cut to Squidward sitting on a parked bench, with an even more sad face than before. He then let out another sigh. This time, it sounded a lot more sad and monotone. The cycle would continue with Squidward in different places, eating at a fancy restaurant, at a concert, walking home, entering his home, with his face getting more and more monotone and depressed as his sighs became more and more dissatisfied. It finally ended with Squidward lying on his bed with a completely monotone and depressed-looking face. As he was lying on his bed, Squidward said in a monotone, "Huh." It then faded to a flashback showing a montage of different clips showing Spongebob and Squidward doing various different fun things together, going to an amusement park, riding on a roller coaster, eating cotton candy together, playing at the park, and it ended with a clip of the two of them hugging. The flashback ends and fades back to Squidward still laying in his bed. Maybe Spongebob isn't so bad, Squidward said in a soft voice. Maybe he's more important to my life than I thought. I think I'm gonna get him back. It then cut to an outside view of Squidward's house with Squidward bursting through the door and sprinting down the road to the pyramid. He was determined to get SpongeBob back to fix his mistake. It showed Squidward running around through various locations, including a city, a meadow, a desert, and even a volcanic-looking area until he finally reached the pyramid. It cut to the outside view of the pyramid and showed Squidward kicking the door down. He walked inside and shouted, "Hey, scary monster dude!" Nothing happened. Aha! The chant! Oh my great god of destruction, sweet mother of all things evil, accept my offer, my sacrifice, make gift to you, my sweet prince! Suddenly the ground began to shake and the portal lit up and activated. Suddenly, the creature emerged from the portal and let out a ground-shaking roar.
Where is my food?
The creature boomed. Scary monster man, Squidward said. I actually don't have any, food for you, but I was just wondering if I can have my friend SpongeBob back, please?
SpongeBob?
said the creature.
You mean this?
The creature held out its hand, and in the palm of the creature hid SpongeBob. His wrists were tied, and his mouth had a piece of tape over it. He was sprinkled in what appeared to be salt and drizzled in what appeared to be A1 steak sauce.
I was just about to eat this little fella.
Eat him? said Squidward. ZZ never mentioned that. If I had known that before, I would have never agreed to this. SpongeBob's annoyed and all. SpongeBob's annoying and all, but he doesn't deserve to get eaten.
Well, too bad. So sad.
The creature said. He leaned his head back and expanded his jaw, exposing all of his wide, sharp teeth, and held SpongeBob over it. Squidward started to panic. What was he going to do to stop this monster from eating SpongeBob? Suddenly, he noticed something. Sitting on one of the tables sat a blaster ray. Squidward had no other choice. He picked up the blaster ray off the table and shot the creature. The shot from the blaster ray created an aura around the creature. The creature let out a loud screech before exploding and causing a massive earthquake. SpongeBob fell out of the creature's hand as it exploded. Luckily, Squidward caught SpongeBob in his hands as he fell. "Alright, come on, SpongeBob. We gotta get you out of here," Squidward said frantically. "Okay," SpongeBob replied. Squidward ran down the doors as fast as he could with SpongeBob still in his arms. Right as he made it out the door, the pyramid began to crumble and crack. It eventually exploded into a million pieces. Squidward made it out the door. Squidward had made it out the door, but they managed to barely survive the explosion by driving down the stairs at the last impossible moment. They landed on the harsh concrete relatively unscathed. When they looked behind them, all that was left of the pyramid was a cloud of dust and a hill. Squidward started panting and placed Spongebob on the ground. "Oh, Squidward, you saved me!" said Spongebob as he hugged Squidward and began to cry tears of joy. "Oh, Spongebob, I'm so sorry," Squidward said as he hugged Spongebob back. "I never should have fed you to that horrible creature. I didn't know this would have happened." Squidward let go of Spongebob. You know, Spongebob, I realized something today. Even though you can be really annoying sometimes, it can ruin my day a lot. You give my life the excitement that it really needs. You know, I never thought I'd say this in my entire life, but I like you as a friend, Spongebob." "Aw, I like you as a friend too, Squidward," Spongebob said as he wrapped his arm around Squidward's shoulder. "Come on, buddy. Let's go home," Squidward said as he wrapped his arm around Spongebob's shoulder. Then they walked off in the sunset together as friends. The bubble transition appeared and it transitioned to an outside view of the Krusty Krab. It then cut to the kitchen where I saw Spongebob dancing the same dance to the same tune as before. Squidward then peered out the window and said, "Hey, Spongebob, mind if I join ya?" "Sure, Squidward, come on," Spongebob replied. Squidward then dived through the window and successfully avoided the stove this time. He landed on the floor and then began to dance in perfect sync with Spongebob. It stayed like this for a few seconds before cutting to the outside of the Krusty Krab. Spongebob and Squidward's laughter could be heard, and with that, the episode faded to black and finally ended with the picture of a mouthless Spongebob. So yeah, that was the episode. Admittedly, it was pretty freaky. I mean, rituals, sacrifices, SpongeBob getting eaten by a malicious demon. That's pretty messed up for a show as kid-friendly as SpongeBob to get into. And God, that freaking creature almost ate SpongeBob. Ugh, God, it's enough to give anyone nightmares. I attempted to do some research on this episode but couldn't find anything, but I did find something that could potentially give me an answer. According to my research, I learned that having a high fever can potentially cause hallucinations, but in what I read, it only said it affected some people, so I'm not really entirely sure. Although I can say this. Even though that episode is freaky as all hell, I actually really enjoyed it. It was fun, action-packed, and actually got a bit of a nice character development for Squidward. So if this episode is real and ever airs on TV, I would highly recommend giving it a look. Although I can't say for certain whether or not this episode is real or not. It might have just been a hallucination caused by my fever, or it could have just been something entirely different. I can never be sure though, and I don't think I'll ever really truly get an answer. In fear and surprise as your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave. Glued to your computer screen, the killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping portrait. Nightmarish, gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.